Hello and welcome once again to Breakfast All Day. I am Christy. That is Matt. That handsome bearded gentleman is Alonso Duralde. He's not Seth Rogen, but Seth Rogen plays opposite Seth Rogen in American Pickle. An American Pickle. Not the American Pickle. Just one. And
Seth Rogen is an American Pickle.
Seth Rogen is Seth Rogen. So,
in The Parent Trap.
Alonso, please describe this movie.
Sure. So Seth Rogen plays a turn of the century Eastern European Jewish villager who flees the pogrom and comes to the United States and gets a job in a pickle factory. And he falls into a brine tank just as the factory is being closed down for health purposes. A century later, his still somehow perfectly preserved body is found. His only living relative is a grandson who is an app designer, also played by Seth Rogen. The two of them have a falling out and start really kind of doing terrible things to undercut each other. Older Seth Rogen tries to start up a new pickle business with jars and cucumbers that he basically finds in the garbage, and it because it's Brooklyn, it becomes trendy for a while, and then young Seth Rogen calls the cops on him. There's a lot of complicated back and forth, but ultimately it's all about family and about taking care of the people who love you more than anyone else in the world.
So I appreciate the ambition with this, and
Sure.
I appreciate that increasingly Seth Rogen wants to do more than just be like adorable, stoner bro. There's
Right.
more to him. And if you look at a movie like 50-50 or like
Steve
Take
Jobs.
This Waltz, Take This Waltz, he's
Yes.
great in that,
Yes.
and he gets to show a more depth than we might expect from him. He could very easily coast on being scruffy teddy bear stoner bro for the rest of his life and be fine. I really love what he is trying to do here, and the scenes where he is playing opposite himself. I think that Ben is the great grandson of Herschel.
Yes.
Sorry, did I say grandson? Great grandson.
I think
yes.
so. I think he's that
great
much
grandson.
younger.
He is.
It's been like a century. It's sort of like two different sides of the Seth Rogen persona, right? Like the younger one is, young and like kind of a slacker and kind of trying to do something, and but he's like a nice guy, affable guy, whatever. And then the older Seth Rogen is very in tune to like Jewish tradition and to playing up the humor within that with all the Yiddish and all of his older ways, whatever. So I think he's playing with his own persona.
His mordant worldview, let's say.
Yes. But this is so, in execution, is so like 80s high concept fish out of water comedy. And it's kind of hacky in that way. Like it's very like, do they mean it? Like, 'cause it's so obvious that it's almost like a parody at times of like fish out of water, of time travel, of, oh wow, cars and phones, and oh my gosh, look at all this technology. I mean, there is one good bit though where they run into the hipster dude on the street in Williamsburg, and that guy looks at Herschel's jacket and hat and scruffy beard and is like, wow, I love your look, man. Like, so that's
vintage.
That's kind of funny, like poking fun of the style in Brooklyn, whatever. But when it's the two of them opposite each other, having conversations about family and tradition and what matters, that worked for me. When it becomes this whole indictment of like instant internet fame, and Herschel becomes just like this asshole. I mean, they both become assholes.
Yeah.
It becomes a whole different movie, and I wonder what the point of that movie is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think early on, it kind of makes you think about like if your ancestor of a century ago could be here and see how you live and what you do with your life and what your beliefs are and all that stuff, how would they judge you? And so I think that's an interesting idea. And even the notion of like they definitely dip into being there at one point where Herschel says this stuff and everybody like reads all this stuff into it and they think it's deeper until finally he like gets to the core of what people believed a century ago, that is of course really offensive to a lot of people now. There's the ideas are consistently potentially interesting. The execution sometimes works and sometimes just kind of lies there.
Yeah, the tonal shifts that happen in here don't happen very well, and it leaves an inconsistency, and it's frustrating because what they're doing with Herschel, like Herschel is like, I love the fact that Herschel almost takes down all those construction workers, right? Like, how many times do we see a Eastern European Jewish character be that much of a badass, right? Like, he's scrappy, he's tough, like this, and I think that it's somewhat daring for the movie to go there, just as opposed to take the jokes of like the gentle little old Jewish guy.
Well, we've seen him dig ditches with his hands. Like, he's endured a lot, you know.
Well, right, but he's not, he's not wilting. He's not like, he's tough. He's
sure, yeah. He's a
brawler, sure of himself.
That kind of
right,
character.
and you're right. Like, the being there thing works for a minute, but then it turns out, oh, he's actually kind of a dick, and it's just, the statements he makes are because he's ignorant. It's not that he's innocent. Right. And that doesn't, it doesn't perpetuate itself. And there's some comedic timing that works really well, like that scene where he's suddenly running, right? But it's not true to, I think, the tone of the whole, like, the tone's so all over the place. And that's frustrating because this could be this interesting story about how they both teach each other. But then it's like it can't help but go for these like obvious, broad comedic moments, and I think that takes away from it. There's the potential. What's the director of being there?
Hal Ashby.
Like, I would love to see somebody take a real Hal Ashby treatment to this and not go for the obvious jokes, because that could work real well.
Also, you have this movie where, like, not only is Seth Rogen playing opposite himself, but like Herschel has nobody in the world but Ben for the first part, and Ben seems to have no friends around him at all or family. So it's kind of like it's all Seth Rogen all the time. Like, they barely get around to introducing any kind of other characters into this conflict. It's a little
There's
weird,
like the venture capitalist person who he's trying to get money from for his app.
Jorma Taccone.
Yeah, and that's about it. Yeah, so this is directed by Brandon Trost, who this is his first solo feature. He's been a longtime cinematographer who has shot movies like Can You Ever Forgive Me? He worked on The Disaster Artist, so he's worked with all these folks for a while.
And it's written by Frank Rich's son.
Oh, see, I think part of why it doesn't work is because Seth Rogen didn't write it. Like, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg didn't write it. So I feel like some of this isn't always the best fit for what makes Seth Rogen an engaging screen presence, Yeah. But it's the older scenes, the flashback scenes, the beginning scenes have this rich sepia tone look to them, as very evocative of this era of New York. I liked all that stuff. Actually, it was shot in Pittsburgh. The newer stuff was all shot in Pittsburgh. So you don't really get a great sense of like New York now when it's supposed to be Brooklyn. I'm like, that's not Bedford Avenue. I lived off the Bedford Avenue L stop in Williamsburg. That's not that.
Was this always designed to go to HBO Max? Was it going to be theatrical at one point? Do we have any idea what it's...
I don't know. It's funny. I just did press play on KCRW this morning before I came and met with you guys. And the guy filling in for Madeline Brand asked me, like, is this a thing that you think will bring people to HBO Max? And I don't. I think if you already had HBO Max, sure, maybe you tune in for it as a curiosity, but I don't think people are going to go, wow, I'm going to sign up for HBO Max now for this Seth Rogen thing. And
it's kind of a good Seth Rogen thing, yeah, but I think this is just kind of a so-so Seth Rogen thing, so,
Anyway, well, what's your number? I'm saying 5.3.
I said 7. I think it's like it's fairly solid, but it just doesn't quite take it to that next level of being special.
Yeah, same thing. 7.
Okay, so 6.4 is our number. This came out a couple days ago, I want to say. It's been out for a couple days on HBO.
I thought it dropped today.
Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday? Okay.
Yesterday.
It's out in the world. It's in the ether for your enjoyment.
Indeed it is. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel here on YouTube. Like this video while you're at it. Follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Our subscribers chose an Olivia de Havilland movie for us to review. It is 1938's The Adventures of Robin Hood, and it is an exclusive, on our
your
Patreon.
Ring doorbell going off, Alonso?
No, it's my phone. I set a timer for this video.
We're done.
We're done. Anyway, patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.